8 notes. So we're going to be reviewing the graphing of quadratics. So we've already learned this stuff before, but I do want to give you guys a little bit of a review so you know what you're doing. If you feel confident with it, you can go ahead and try it on your own. I just really suggest you check your answers with the video before you do so. Either way, you need to have a completed note sheets, and you do need to have those steps filled in at the top, so make sure you have that written down. So remember, when you're graphing quadratics, the first thing you need to do is find the vertex. So to get the x-coordinate of the vertex, you're going to do opposite of b over 2a. Once you get your x, you can plug that x back in for x in the original equation. That's going to give you a y. Then you're going to write it out as an ordered pair, x, y. That represents your vertex. The next thing you want to do is make a table with those values. So you're going to start and you're going to put the vertex in the middle. Then remember, you're going to go up as you go down, and you're going to go down as you go up, which is kind of confusing. But I think you know what I mean once we get to the chart. Then you're going to plug in those x values for x in the equation so you can get the y. Remember that the chart has to be symmetrical surrounding the vertex. So you really only have to calculate 2 instead of 4 values when you're making that chart. Again, please make sure you're writing this stuff down. Next, also make sure you're labeling your x-intercepts, telling us what they are. If your x-intercept is not a number, you may write it as between blank and blank, or if you wanted to, you can make an estimate of the number. Okay, just somehow indicate to me that you know where those x-intercepts are. Okay, let's take a look at an example of this. So, remember that your graph is going to open up when a is positive. So when a is greater than 0, and it's going to open down when your a is negative. Remember, a is always with the squared term, b is always with the x term, and c is always that constant on the end. So let's just quickly go through 3 examples together. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at number 1. So the first thing I want to do for number 1 is calculate out my vertex. So first thing I want to do is write out my a, my b, and my c. So a is always with the squared term. So a is equal to 1. B is equal to 4, C is equal to -1. So now what I want to do is I want to plug that into my vertex formula, opposite of B over 2A. So x is equal to the opposite of B over 2A. So now I have -4 divided by 2. -4 divided by 2 is -2. So the x-coordinate of my vertex then is -2. Now I need to calculate out the y-coordinate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite out that equation, but wherever I see an x, I'm going to put parenthesis -2. Remember, when you're dealing with negatives, it's really important that you put the parentheses in your calculators. So again, if you're a smart calculator user, you can plug it in exactly like this and hit equals, and that gives you your answer. And you should get -5. So what I want you to do right now is pause the video, type that in your calculator, make sure you get -5. If you don't, please come see me. So now we're going to plug in our vertex. Okay, so we had -2 for our x-coordinate and -5 for our y-coordinate. So now we want our variables to go up for x as we go this way. So this is going to be -1, and this is going to be 0. It's getting larger. Then we want it going down, going this way. So this is going to get more negative. Now remember, these 2 values need to be the same, and these 2 values need to be the same. Well, to get these 2 values, we can plug in -1 or -3. Well, let's just plug in -1. So what we're going to do is we're going to, just like we did for the vertex, wherever we see an x, I'm going to substitute out and put -1 in instead. So we have -1 squared plus 4 times -1 minus 1. So again, you can plug that into your calculator exactly, and when you do that, you should get -4. If you did not get -4, come show me what you typed in. A lot of you made many mistakes on this on the quiz. Okay, next what we need to do is we need to substitute in our next value. So let's plug in 0. So we're going to plug in 0 here. And when you plug in 0, you end up -1, which means that this should be -1 as well. So now we're ready to plot all of these points here. So let's start with our vertex. We're going to go left 2 and down 5. So we're going to plot that point right there. Now remember, through your vertex is that axis of symmetry, that vertical line. So now we want to plot each of our points. We're going to go left 1, down 4, left 0, down 1. So now we have the right side done. Left 3, down 4, left 4, down 1. So then we're going to go ahead and we're going to draw that parabola. So now I need to estimate, okay? So my graph is kind of poorly drawn. So I want to figure out where my x-intercepts are. To me, it looks like it's crossing between -4 and -5. So I'm going to call that -0.5. Now if I had drawn this well, this should have crossed between 0 and 1. So I'm going to call that second x-intercept -0.5. So I'm looking at where it's crossing the x-axis. That's what your x-intercepts are. And that's going to become more into play further down with your note videos. All right, let's take a look at number 2. It's going to be the same thing. Here I notice that my A is negative. What does it tell me? It's going to open downwards. So my A is going to be a -1. Remember, if there's no coefficient, that doesn't mean the coefficient is 0. That means it's 1. So we have A is -2, B is 2, or -1, sorry, B is 2, and C is 3. So to get the x-coordinate, we're going to do opposite of B over 2 times A. So we end up getting -2 divided by -2, which is going to give me 1. So the x-coordinate of my vertex then is 1. So again, as we go this way, we want to get larger. As we go this way, we want to get smaller. So now what I'm going to do is first I want to get the y-coordinate of my vertex. So I'm going to take 1 and I'm going to plug it in wherever I see an x in that equation. So I'm just taking that original equation and putting a 1 wherever I see an x. Notice that I kept that negative sign on the outside of the squared term. So you type all of that in and you get 4. So the x-coordinate of the vertex is 4. So now remember, 2 and 0 should be the same. So now into each of these values, we're going to plug in 0. And when you plug in 0, you end up with 3, which is good. We want it to be going down because our parabola is opening down. Then I'm also going to plug in 3. It doesn't matter which of the two values you choose. If you want to plug them all in, you can. I just teach you the symmetry thing as a shortcut. So when you plug in 3, you end up with 0. So this one is 0, which means that this one has to be 0. So now let's go ahead and let's plug in what we know into our graph. So our vertex is over 1, up 4. So I'm going to plot that point. And through that point, I have my vertical axis of symmetry. Then I'm going over 0, up 3. Also over 2, up 3. Then I'm going over 3, up 0. Left 1, up 0. So now I'm going to draw those in. So this one, I happen to know exactly what the x-coordinate or x-intercepts are because the x-intercepts are where you cross the x-axis, which means that y is 0. So my x-intercepts then are 3 and -1. Last but not least, let's take a look at number 3. So we want to, again, calculate out our vertex. So to calculate out our vertex, we want to figure out our A, our B, and our C value. So to get our vertex, we're going to use opposite of B over 2A. So x is equal to opposite of B over 2A, which is -2 over 2, which is a -1. So the x-coordinate of your vertex is -1. Okay, so now we're going to take this -1 and we're going to plug it in wherever we see an x up there. So y is equal to -1 squared. Again, those parentheses are really important. Plus 2 times -1 plus 3. So we're going to plug in all of those values. And when you plug in -1 for x like that, you get 2. So our vertex in the middle there is -1, 2. So we're going to get more positive going this way. So this is going to be 0. This is going to be 1. More negative going this way. So this is going to be -2. This is going to be -3. These two values are the same, and these two values are the same to make our chart symmetrical. So now what we're going to do next is I want to plug in 0. I'm going to plug in 0 for these values here. So when I plug in 0, I have 0 squared plus 2 times 0 plus 3. I end up getting 3. So both of these values here need to be 3. Next, what I need to do is I need to plug in 1. So I'm going to erase this and I'm going to plug in 1. So each of these values are 1. Well, when I plug that in, I end up getting 6. So now I'm going to go ahead and graph that. My vertex is -1, 2, so I'm going left 1, up 2. And then I'm going to put a horizontal line through that. I'm going over 0, up 3, left 2, up 3, then I'm going right 1, up 6, then left 3, up 6, and I am plotting all of those points. So this one is opening upward, which is good because our A is positive, but it's opening upward away from the x-axis. It's never going to cross the x-axis. So there are no x-intercepts. Okay, so that concludes your note video for today. Please show me your completed note sheet when you're done. Thanks for listening.